Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is our Arsenal preview series, our show in which we look ahead to the next Arsenal fixture, where I'm joined by some fantastic guests from our members Discord server to join up and discuss these games. This one is in particular, quite a big one. Arsenal against Liverpool in the third round of the FA Cup. Arsenal kicking off this year's domestic tournament in a very challenging manner. Of course, Arsenal only 2 weeks ago came away from Anfield with a 1-1 draw, but it's kind of been all downhill since then. Defeats against West Ham and Fulham have really put Arsenal's title credentials on the back foot, but a big win against a title rival would certainly enable us to get somewhere in the realms of positivity and perhaps some momentum as we take a little break with the Premier League mini winter break, if you will, coming up this weekend for Arsenal, or rather next weekend for Arsenal, before we get back underway against Palace. So an interesting game, an interesting fixture. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you happen to be, rather, in the world. Do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, where those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. We've got Aaron in the chat box, and A1 and Jimbo. We've got old Dave joining us. Dominic Rose asking for a shout out because he never gets up early enough for the other morning ones. JDV, Gunny, Gooner, Ryan Kirkpatrick, our resident Liverpool fan, joining us as well. He's going to behave, I'm sure. Anthony and Jimbo as well. Thank you to everyone tuning in. Let's introduce you rather to our guest for this evening. First of all, it's Chris. How you doing, mate? It's been a little while.
Yeah, nearly a year, and I'm back just to.
Is it really a year? Did you?
It's scary, isn't it?
That's ridiculous. But I think I'm seeing you at our live event. Am I right in saying that, or not?
Yep.
Indeed, I thought I was. Lovely stuff. But I did see you at the Ray Parlour event that we did, of course, as well. That was more recently.
Yep, and the Arse blog thing that
of course.
Thing. So yeah, I'm around. I've been around, just not been on the channel. That's all.
All good, mate. All good. Also joined by Kian. Kian, how you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much.
Good stuff. I often wonder how I managed to fit headphones around a cat, but that is a particularly large one, so I don't know how you've managed to do that, but fair play. He hasn't even got an answer. Not even an answer to that.
It's my gaming one, that's why it fits me. I got small
that might be why it explains it. And fantastic to make a debut on the channel from our Discord server after basically, let's be real, our Discord server bullying people into coming on at this stage. It's Bryce. How you doing, Bryce?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Very good. Where are you joining us from?
Wisconsin, over in the United States.
Lovely stuff. So it's what, about, I'm going to guess 12 midday-ish by you?
Yeah, it's 11. Yep, 11:03.
Yeah. Oh, just before, 6 hours behind us. Lovely stuff. Let's get straight into things. Bryce, we'll actually start with you. How are you feeling ahead of this very interesting but challenging fixture?
Excited, I think. I think that going back and playing Liverpool again after what was, I don't know, for me, it was kind of a disappointing draw. I was really hoping to go and win against them in the league, but, you know, that's what happens. You know, two top clubs playing each other is what it is. I think that we're going to be a lot better off with Mo Salah out on international duty. I think that's going to help us out a lot in this next fixture.
Indeed, yes. Not just Salah, but also Endo is away with the Japanese side and the Asia Cup. And Dominic Szoboszlai is injured and will not be available for this game. Sad. I won't see the boy at the ground on Sunday, but rather positive for Arsenal, of course, to not have to deal with his talents. Kian, Liverpool, of course, I think we're probably the better team when we went to Anfield, and maybe we're perhaps a slight fortunate to come over. Just a point there, they hit the woodwork twice in that game. But are you feeling like with the Emirates environment makes it slightly more weighted in our favour and Salah's obvious absence too?
Yeah, I think we lost the midfield battle last time we played them, and obviously Zinni didn't have the best game. But you can understand is Salah. You give him one chance, he's gonna score. So that's why I put Zinni in my team. Obviously, I don't have fear this game of their attack. I don't really know who I even look at and think I'm actually scared about this game, except Jota maybe, if he starts up front.
I was going to say Diaz
is pretty threatening.
Don't fear him. Well, he's scoring on Sunday, then, isn't he? Guaranteed now. We've tempted fate in that sense. Brilliant. Chris, obviously, Kian touched upon some of the absences there and maybe the lack of fear, but there will be significant changes to their midfield because both Endo and Szoboszlai started against us in their game at Anfield. They're not available, only Curtis Jones being there. I don't know about the availability of the likes of McAllister. I don't know if he's returned yet from injury, but are you expecting us to have more of an edge in this fixture because of that midfield change?
No, I think we go into this game, it's going to be tough. I think you've seen Alexander Arnold start to play a new, more inverted role. I think you're going to see him play that. They're going to put him in the midfield. Anybody who thinks that these guys are going to be a walkover, and it's going to be super easy, I think probably deluded.
People. I'd love to get some Arsenal optimism that think Liverpool are a walkover. I don't Kian doesn't necessarily fear them, but a walkover would be incredible.
Wait, correction, I don't fear their attack. That's all I said.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're a great side, right? They're well organised. Klopp's already come out in his press conference today and said they're going to go full strength. They're coming to get to the next round of the FA Cup, right? And we have to be ready for that. We're at home. It's a great opportunity. I'm slightly worried because the tube strike means that will the Emirates be full, right? I'm getting pinged like, are you going to be able to get there? Blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. So we'll see what happens on Sunday. And it's only, I Googled it. It's 2 hours and 34 minutes for me to walk from my house to the stadium. So that's 5 hours of walking on Sunday for me if everything else fails.
Buses, Chris, there are buses.
Yeah, I know. There's one goes from the end of my road to the Highbury Barn. it's fine.
Well, you're fine then.
yeah. Look, it's going to be great.
Yeah, it is. To be honest, I'll be very honest. I'm also worrying about the travel side of things. I've got to somehow get from the Emirates to Cannon Street after the game because there's no trains to St Pancras nor Victoria this weekend either. It's a little bit of a chaotic weekend. But with it being a 4:30 kickoff, I'm hoping I'll have enough time to, if I have to walk across London to get to Cannon Street, might be the way forwards. Worst case scenario, we get a taxi. It's as simple as that. I hope that, of course, Bryce, that we are going to be combative more so than we were at Anfield. You referenced the midfield battle. I think it was referenced as well by the other guys too. But there are question marks about our left-hand side in particular. We don't know about Zinchenko's fitness 100%. Arteta said that he has one more training session and we'll see kind of where he's at, but he's progressing well, so he could be in contention. But how do we go about solving this left-hand side problem? Do we wait for it to play into form or do we need to change something tactically?
I think it's kind of a waiting game right now. I mean, we brought in Jurrien Timber in the summer. He was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to come in and help Zinchenko out and bring a different look. Same with Tommy Asu. Tommy Asu's away on international duty right now. I mean, we have three great left-handed left backs or left-footed left backs. We're in a good position. It's just that we have one out for the season with a season-long injury. Second one's gone on international duty. The other one, Zinchenko, he's a doubt as well with his calf issues. And let's be honest, he has a history of injury issues. So honestly, I think it is a bit of a waiting game. We don't really have the finances to do anything about it right now anyways, with Arsenal being in a bit of FFP issues. So for me, it's a bit of a waiting game. I think that we have the players, we have the talent to do something about it and to still be a successful squad. It's just getting them healthy and capitalizing on games.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think you're right about the waiting side of things. I think sometimes it does take time for players to return to form. Players do go through bad patches. I feel like we've been unfortunate that a number of players seem to have hit a bad patch at the same time. And I think that's then come back on the manager. Is that fair, Kian? Do you think the manager is fairly getting criticised for the overall lack of form of a number of players? Is it down to him while we've suffered these defeats?
No, I have to take a break from the social side of football on the YouTube because
I'm dragging you back in.
It wasn't you. Unfortunately, you're not so bipolar when it comes to your views on Arsenal, even if we lose. At the moment, because we had those 3 losses, and I'm not disagreeing that they were disappointing losses. Maybe not to Liverpool, but the other 2 definitely so. But it's just so extreme right now, and I can see our players who are off form for most of the season, our attackers have not been like, especially Martinelli and Saka. Like, I love them to bits, but I can understand they're not in form. They're not. They were projected about 15 to 20 goals each, maybe this season, if you had to go by last season, and they are not on track, nowhere near. Like Saka's numbers are there, performance is nowhere near there. So I can see and Jesus unfairly, he's still doing his job. He still creates. He still goes about different places. Odegaard is creating, not scoring as much. So every single top scorer from last season, they're not performing. So I just don't see how it's Arteta's fault. Maybe you can say we've become more controlling, so maybe that's taken away from our attacking side. Maybe we're not transitioning more. But I sometimes see that's half Arteta and half Partey not being there, because I think he was so instrumental in giving the ball to Odegaard in transition so fast. The way he turns, the way he breaks lines, he's not like Rice is good, but he's not press resistant like Partey is. Like Rice won't lose the ball, but he also won't take on his man as often and get a progressive pass in as often. He'll switch the play maybe, but he won't do what Partey does, which is quite obvious, I know, but it's still a big thing we're missing, I think.
Differences between Rice and Partey are something that I think are really interesting in a debate, because as we talked about in one of the other shows, Rice, I think, has the highest progressive pass frequency of any player in the top 5 leagues this season. And yet we look at what Partey did and say, well, he's not doing that. But I think it's where those passes from Partey are going that is the difference, whereas Rice is very much ball into those wide areas, into Saka, or if Jesus drifts or Odegaard drifts, he's playing those balls into those areas. Maybe we'd like to be a little bit more direct. Without a doubt, we are missing Partey.
The key difference in the passing is like Rice doesn't play those risky passes on the ground to someone close to someone. Like Rice can switch a play really well. He can carry the ball really well.
He plays some, just nowhere near as much as Partey.
Yeah. Because I think Partey's more press resistant dribbling wise as well, so you can afford to get in those positions to make risky passes as well.
You've got a scrutinizing face on, Chris, unless that's just how it sits. I want to know what you're thinking.
Look. Okay, so I like the way Rice is playing. I'm slightly bemused about, I think we are looking at something we can't have and going, oh, we would be better. I think some of the movement that Rice has put in has been fabulous, and I think some of the movement. I think the thing I would say is we're probably slower this year, but I don't think I don't think that's down to the players. I think that's down to the way they're being coached. And if you look at the constant pressure and all those sorts of things, is what Arteta wants them to do. If anybody thinks any players out there isn't doing what he's told, right? Arteta is pulling the strings for everybody. He has a role for them, right, and a plan. And I don't think I think to me the Partey argument's a bit of a waste of air, and I don't mean that unkindly, but it probably came out that way. It's like we haven't got.
You're a waste of air, Kieran. That's what you are.
No, Kieran was a waste of air. I said the argument's a waste of air.
I know.
Because we haven't got it, right?
The pot.
And the reality is, what we've got with Rice is brilliant, right? The way he's being used, the way he's fitted into that team, the way he sees the rest of that field. And you watch him pop things in and you go, okay, I got that. Would Partey give you something else? Yeah, of course he's slightly different. And I think he's slightly more defensive. And I think Declan's moving us slightly further forward. And then we seem to stop and get stuck and go slow. So my frustration is more about the team being statuesque in the final third than it is the transitions to get there.
Yeah, I think the Partey argument is like secondary to what the primary focus on what has been our restrictions this season, which Arteta has tried to make us harder to beat, I think. And in that showed in games like we saw when we beat Manchester City 1-0, for instance. That showed when it was only counterattacks that Manchester United were trying to use, and when they came to play as well. I think it was even slightly evident at Anfield, even recently in our poorer patch of form. Liverpool of old, when we've not necessarily been on it, have put 3, 4, 5 past us, and they weren't doing that against us recently, even though we are in a tougher patch of form. And if you look at the Fulham game, Fulham didn't necessarily have a glut of chances when they beat us. And Arteta said in his press conference today that he felt that we didn't deserve to lose that game. Now, I think there's an easy argument to say that we didn't deserve to win that game. There's no argument in the world you could say Arsenal deserved to beat Fulham. maybe there's an argument to say that Fulham didn't deserve necessarily to win it, and maybe it should have been a more of a stalemate. But I think that's still a bit of a reach from Arteta. West Ham certainly didn't deserve, I felt, the game what they played against us, and Arsenal created 30 shooting opportunities and 77 touches in their box. That's more of an evidence to say that Arsenal were hard done by in that game. But I do think that Arteta's tried to instill something about resilience in this team this season, but it's cost us, I think, in the forward line. And that lack of speed that you touched upon, Chris, I think is really important. And if there's one team that doesn't lack speed, it's Liverpool, Bryce. And I think that, the speed of Diaz, the speed of Nunez, the speed of Gakpo, the speed of even Elliott's not even exactly sluggish, when he plays. And actually, Ryan, I say resident Liverpool fan, he says that he's not been able to watch too many shows this season, but has been catching up. But Ryan says it's probably going to be Jones, McAllister, and maybe Elliott. I think there's a chance Gravenberch could be selected as well in their midfield for a little bit more fight with Rice, and I expect Jorginho to be in there, but I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. But yes, Jota or Elliott in the wide areas. But Bryce, how do we get back our speed that was there last season? That's a tough question.
I think that we need to start utilizing Martinelli more, as Martinelli was used last year as more of a direct wing. Kind of switching play, getting him in motion, getting him driving down at his defenders and driving towards goal, and kind of spacing that field out. I feel like the thing that Arsenal's missing is just that little bit of directness. Because, we are controlling games. You talked about West Ham, 77 touches in the opponent's box. That's crazy. That is crazy. And
what's more crazy is that you don't then put the ball in the net. That's more crazy
that we didn't score. My goodness. Okay. Anyways, so getting just a little bit more direct with Martinelli would, I think, benefit the team a lot. We have a lot of control players. I think Kai Havertz is an excellent control player. He doesn't progress the ball forward a lot with his passes, but he sure doesn't lose the ball a lot either. And so he's kind of a more controlling player. Odegaard's a more controlling player. Saka, he drives at his guys, but he's not the one making those crazy sprints from out of nowhere. I remember that one ball, I can't remember the game it was, where Tomiyasu just launched the ball to Martinelli from halfway across the pitch, and it just landed right at his foot. He went on to score.
He cleared it, didn't it? He cleared it.
Yeah.
And it would just went far left-hand side. What was that? Someone in the chat box will remember
PSG,
what that was.
Not PSG, it was the Champions League game. Yeah, it was a Champions League game for sure.
Yeah. And so
it was definitely Champions League.
And even if it was a clearance,
I think it might have been Lens.
Yeah, it might have been Lens. Even if it was a clearance, those kinds of opportunities is what Martinelli excels at. Those one-on-one opportunities against the keeper where he outruns four people, because he's one of the fastest players in the Premier League. Let's use his speed. And so
I was just checking, by the way. Definitely was Lens.
I think that's going to be really influential for our attacking options. And then in terms of defending against Liverpool's speed, we have William Saliba. We have William Saliba.
This is a really good question, Kieran from Jabu says, I'll ask what Clive was alluding to. It's a shame that Jabu can't even take credit for this because it's all Clive. Why invert a player that can't invert? Why not try and invert White on the right instead of trying to force Kivior, if he has to play, to invert on the left?
That's actually a question I asked myself as well when I was watching games, because I really don't like Kivior in the embed role. It's making him look bad as well. It's not doing him anything.
He panics.
Yeah,
he really panics.
I don't think he has any problem defensively when he plays centre back. He's good at reading the game and stuff. But on the left back, he gets beat for pace and he struggles to recover, and it's making him look really bad. And I feel bad for him, playing out of position, and I think he's losing his chance with Arteta, because I know Arteta doesn't give players that many chances, especially new ones. So I feel bad for him. And White, he can play really well. I'm not sure if he did before Brighton. Did he play defensive mid? I know that's one of the positions when we scouted him that he could play. He was centre back, right back, and CDM.
Very rarely though. It was one of those where you're you see him play there 3 games. You're he can play defensive midfield.
It was a bit like Chambers when we had him, and he apparently could play.
Exactly. He had that season on loan at Fulham, didn't he, where he played defensive midfield and
then when White does play centre back, he brings the ball forward so well. He's comfortable on the ball. Even when he's on the right back, he's megging people on the side, and he's very comfortable. So I don't see why we don't. I don't know if it's Arteta being rigid with his system. No, it's the left back who has to do it, or maybe he's yeah, I just don't see, because they're both centre backs, Kivior and Ben White. I don't see what the difference is.
And Robert says this: Kivior is not even a left back. Like, we're talking about him playing this inverted role. His best position is left centre back. That is what he is. I think he is a left-sided centre half. I actually think his best position is going to be the left side of a back three. I think that would be Kivior's best role, and we don't obviously play that, but we could shift to playing that if the right back of our system became more of a forward player. And if that is Yuri and Timber, maybe that is where then you have Saliba, Gabriel, Kivior as a back three, and Timber's kind of moving into midfield. So you become, you get Timber basically as an auxiliary midfielder, a little bit like Zinchenko has been on the left-hand side for us. So that's perhaps what you might see. The problem with that is I'm not sure if we've got the left-sided midfielder to balance things in the same way as we do on the right-hand side, with Ødegaard and Saka kind of combining when we don't have the inversion on the right. But I guess maybe you could swap Ødegaard to the left, but I don't know if that's something he would do. Before we go to lineups, there's still a lot obviously talk in the chat box at the moment about the inversion of the fullbacks. But El Boogie says we would be much better with a 6 and Rice in an 8. Ødegaard is having to do way too much. Chris, what do you think about this for Liverpool? Is it time to push Rice into the midfield a little bit higher up and bring Jorginho in?
As you'll see from my line out, I say no. I think this is too important a game for us on momentum. I think you can play that against certain teams that play, that will hold a line higher, or sorry, a low block defense. You can play it there. You want to play it against Liverpool with the speed they've got with Jorginho? I don't think so. I think you saw with Rice with Anfield, his athleticism, right? I don't want to push him too far forward on this one, because we're sitting here going, oh, Zinni might have an injury, and now we're looking at speed and pace, and yeah, we got Saliba, but reality is you need to be careful. So for me, no, wrong game, and I think there will be games for that, but I don't think this is one of them. And I sort of, the whole thing about White, and I'm going to drag back slightly because maybe I have a slightly different view. I like what he's doing at the moment. I like the way he's working with Saka. I don't see why we want to change him to be inverted. I think that side of it, and that side works really well. And then, Ødegaard popping in with little bits and pieces. If we're going to play this way, it's actually working really well. So for me, I like what White's doing. I think he's doing what he's told. And I think that's the most important thing. And I don't see how you can run 2 inverted players at the same time, because you're just going to end up with 2 centre backs and nobody to defend. You can't do that in this league. You'll just be taken apart.
Yeah, and that's why even the likes of Man City, you tend to see just the one. If John Stones is invert and you've got Ake holding, in a left back, or Gvardia holding in a left back role, and vice versa. So, yeah, Kanji might go to the right, and then you've got Ake to invert on the left. It depends on what they want to do, but you don't tend to see double inversion. It would be risky. I don't know if it's possible. I'm not saying it isn't possible, but it would certainly be risky. Let's go through our lineups then. Chris, you said that you didn't start that midfield, and you certainly have stuck to your word there. So talk us through your team.
Okay, so I think the reality is we need momentum. We need to win this game if we can, right? We need it to not go to to be all square at the end and go to a replay, because that's just not going to work for us. We're off on 2 weeks holiday, and we need to go and enjoy it without any stress. So what I would say is, there was somebody in the comments, Squeezy Cakes 17 or something, who said about using Jesus as a
real name.
Sorry,
That's a real name.
Using Jesus
I'm
as
trying to find it now. Squeezy Cakes.
Squeezy Cake 17. That's what I wrote down. Maybe I'm
Okay,
writing
I'll try to
rubbish.
find it. I feel like I would have seen that. Oh, yes. Jay-Z's left 8. Here we go. Squeezy Cake 17.
Right. So I think, right, what we should be seeing is Jesus and Havertz interchanging. So I think Jesus should play a little bit of a left 8, and put Havertz up against Van Dijk, make him use his height, right, but not all of the time, right. The great thing about the way we play is we don't have one structure. We sit here with a piece of paper and we say, oh, this is notionally where they can play. But the reality is everybody's going to move around. They're going to flip. They're going to change. We're going to prod. We're going to probe. So, yeah, I'm quite happy for Jesus to sit back a little bit, for Havertz to become more of a target man. I think Ødegaard, for me, he's trying to overcomplicate things and do the same thing again and again. And he does it brilliantly. I'm not arguing with that. I'd like to see him be a little bit more flexible with Saka and maybe them try and play around and prod and probe in a slightly different way. But I think changing the back five, I think was if you don't need to, why would you change it? And my star player was Rice, because I think that's going to be really important to give us a platform.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. He's often the most important player on the pitch for us, so I'm not surprised that he comes in that way. Kian, talk us through yours, mate. Ever so slight change to Chris's.
Yeah, Ramsdale, I'm just hoping Arteta doesn't disregard him completely, because this is the only game he can play now. What else is he going to play in? Because I don't think he's getting back in the Champions League squad. This is the only cup left, and he's the only one he's going to play in. So that's why I put him in. I do prefer Raya. It's not like I prefer Ramsdale or anything, but I just think it's logical. If you put him in this one, I wouldn't be surprised. And then rest is the same. I wanted Havertz in there. I like what Chris said about the interchanging of Jesus and Havertz, and I think they did that against Luton. Like, Havertz was making runs off Jesus. That's how we got one of our goals, and he does that quite often. I just didn't see it against Liverpool, obviously, but hopefully we see that more often. And that's why I did put my star man as Jesus, because I feel like last time we played, like you mentioned, both defenses were so solid. It was like all four centre backs could have given any of them a man of the match in that game. So I feel like the key man is going to be Jesus. Is it like him dropping or maybe taking on a man to unlock the defense? It's going to be him that does it, because I don't have confidence in Martinelli or Saka pulling anything off. That's been my biggest gripe this season with them too. Like Martinelli last season, like when I was watching the game, I'm so frustrated. It just felt like the end of Wenger era. Like we're just passing the ball side to side to each winger. Then no one's taking their man on. No one's being direct. And yeah, I just don't see anyone else doing that except Jesus in the game, and maybe Odegaard. He's been the only on form creatively for us.
Yeah, no, I think that Jesus is obviously one that offers multifaceted benefits in that centre forward role. And the question is, can anyone else do that for us? Maybe we might see a lineup with a different option. We won't from Bryce, though, who's also come with the same 10. Obviously, Raya coming in. I'm interested as to why you didn't go with Ramsdale, as I see a couple of you in the chat box have said this to both yourself and to Chris as well about Matt G saying, I'll be disappointed if Rams doesn't start. Natalie says, hopefully we'll start Ramsdale. Jimbo says, I missed the Rambo banter with our rival fans. So talk us through your 11, but also why you did go with Raya here.
Yeah, so the reason I went with Raya is just because I think Arteta will. Ramsdale is, I loved Ramsdale last year. He's fun to watch. He was a pretty all right shot stopper. I mean, he was okay and didn't get us a title, though. And I think that we can see it a lot of goals that could have been saved. But anyways, I just think that Arteta is going to go with Raya because this is a must win. Where we're currently sitting in the table isn't horrible. We're definitely still contending for a title, but our chances are a lot lower than they were 3 weeks ago in comparison. So I think that Arteta is going to see this FA Cup as a must win now. Like, we have to go and win some silverware this season. And that's the only reason I picked Raya. Zinchenko's another one. Pretty sure he's out, but this is my preferred team. I think Kivior is going to end up there when Arteta picks this team. And the reason I have Odegaard as my star player is he's been cooking the last couple of weeks. I mean, in terms of chance creation, I think Odegaard's probably our best person in creating those chances. That link up he has with Saka is amazing. And I think it's really important to remember that Liverpool doesn't really have a fullback to cover Saka right now. They have a major injury, that broken collarbone. And if I'm not mistaken, he was their backup anyways, right? The guy that broke his collarbone?
Yeah, Simicast.
Simicast, yeah.
Yeah, Simicast. Yeah, he was the backup anyways. And so right now they don't have a fullback, like a real.
Joe Gomez is playing at the moment.
Yeah.
In that position, who had a very good game against Saka when he came on.
Did, yeah. But I'm hoping that Saka can at least get some momentum up that right wing. Odegaard as well. I'm hoping that Odegaard can distribute to Saka and Martinelli more. And then if we're getting into their box and they're basically just throwing 10 guys in the box, have Havertz come in for a late run at the far post. And then hopefully Odegaard can cross one of those in and just hit him right in the dome.
Right in the dome. That's a phrase I'm going to use one more time for sure. Mine is a bit different to the selection so far. I have tried to go with something different to basically, if with the form that we're in, I just think we need something different. And I'm not usually the one that does this either. So you can tell I might be going a bit crazy. The back four and the goalkeeper, actually, I don't know why I've got Raya in there because it's not meant to be Raya. It is meant to be Ramsdale. So let me just quickly change that. There we go. It is indeed Ramsdale that I would have in goal for this one. I would be incredibly frustrated if Raya starts this for him as a person. I just think the idea that he'd been relegated to just League Cup games and non-competitive Champions League games would be such an insult. I see why you guys have said Raya. I absolutely see the reasoning behind it. If Arteta thinks that that's the guy, then that's the guy. So yeah, Ramsdale for me comes in and starts, but the back four is the same. Zinchenko starting. I say the same. He obviously didn't start the game against Fulham, but there is suggestions that he has got this training session, should be okay for that. I just trust him more than Kivior. I think he adds more than Kivior. If he's fit, play him. And to do that, to support that, bring in Jorginho into the midfield to give you a little bit more of a foundation, perhaps more of a double pivot with Rice on the left-hand side, gives Zinchenko maybe more defensive security than we've had with Havertz there. Jesus and Martinelli, for me, form-wise, are probably the weakest of the front three in recent games. I know Saka didn't have a great game against Fulham, still scored, obviously. And I want to see something different. And in terms of that, I think Smith Rowe, this won't happen, by the way. There is no chance on earth that Arteta is starting Smith Rowe in this game because for some reason he's forgotten that he exists. I don't know why, but he has. But for me, Smith Rowe rose to prominence at Arsenal playing on that left-hand side. He isn't slow. He adds you speed. And I think against Trent Alexander-Arnold, having Smith Rowe's ability to both invert in terms of going interior, but also run into the byline, which Martinelli, I just feel sometimes a little bit too predictable. And Martinelli had a rough time against Konate and Trent at Anfield, really was nullified in terms of his threat. And I just think throwing a wild card, throwing something different in this game. And the other wild card is, of course, Havertz starting as a false nine for me in this team and giving us something of a target against the likes of Van Dijk and most likely Konate as well, giving us something of a physical block, a target man, if you like, in the box to give you something different. Obviously, the goal we scored at Anfield came from that cross, from that free kick. They are vulnerable, it seems, where you can get those balls into the box. So I know this is different. You can bring on Trossard, you can bring on Jesus, you can bring on Martinelli if you like. You've got loads of variation and options from the bench if you play with this team as well. So I'm going different. Let me know what your comments and thoughts are on this, of course, in the comment section and the chat box. We finish the show, as always, with predictions. Chris, we start with you. Scoreline and scorers, please. Mute button. Mute button. There we go.
Sorry about that. It was background noise my end and I turned it off. Right, 3-1. I think Havertz.
To us, yes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Just checking. It's Liverpool. I have to. If it was like, I was about to say Fulham, and that would have been really ironic. But go on. Yeah.
No, Havertz. I think Odegaard and maybe Rice is due one as well. And I think the third goal will be somewhere very, very close to the end. They'll just be pushing for a draw, and we'll just, break and score at the end. So I think it's going to be a tight game.
I think it'll be 2-1 Liverpool. Unfortunately, I do have to say they will win it. I
apologize, mate. You just predict what you want to predict.
Yeah, the form, it's just been so frustrating watching. It's drained me last 3 games. Like, the lack of, I don't know, anything. I don't see us getting any goals against Liverpool, especially with how their defense is. I think it's kind of going under the radar. Like, people are saying it now, but their defense is probably better than ours at this point. Like, they're not conceding silly goals as they were at the beginning of the season. And yeah, I just don't see us scoring more than maybe 1 goal in the game.
Fair enough. And Bryce?
I'm going to go 2-1 to Arsenal. I'm going to go with an Odegaard goal from the O-zone. And then we're going to go with a Martinelli goal as well, just because he needs one so bad. I'm going to will it into existence. He's going to score this game. And he's going to take advantage of Trent being in the midfield and, just basically break down that flank and hopefully cut in and one-on-one.
To be fair, manifesting works on this show. I questioned the Havertz when he scored 4 weeks in a row, and I was like, okay, I can't go back on.
Yeah.
Fair enough, mate. Well,
also, old Dave was wondering what my kit was. It's Odegaard.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. See, Saka's on the back of my green one, I think. I haven't got the yellow one for very obvious reasons. And then on the home kit is Zinchenko, I think, this season, actually, which has not gone down too well, to be fair, for his form this year. Hopefully, we win the league and Havertz gets his own shirt, and it will be the yellow one, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Thank you to my fantastic guests. Before I do say goodbye completely, I will throw out the predictions from the chat box. Wilson says 3-2 Arsenal. Natalie says 2-1 Arsenal. Granddaddy Gooner says 2-0 Havertz and Jesus. Profit and Sustainability, which is James, I've just noticed has changed his name. It says a nervy 1-0 Havertz win. Old Dave's going for a 4-1 win to the Gunners. Back at Lozano says my heart says 3-1 to us. My head says 2-0 Liverpool. I think that's where Kian's probably sitting. Thomas says 2-0 Saka and Saliba bullet header. Damon's going for a 1-1. Matt G's going for a close game, but an 8-0 Arsenal win. Well, it's a little bit of an oxymoron there. Granny Poo says Arsenal 17, Liverpool 0. This is great. Ryan says I think this is a bit of a free hit for us. I think that you need to win. And Ryan says 1-0 Arsenal. I think the pressure is more so on Arsenal. Obviously, Liverpool have a semi-final to play shortly after in the League Cup as well. Arsenal, without a doubt, the side that need a bit of a boost, and Liverpool can play, I think, with more freedom. So I guess let's wait and still. I still think there's something about the pressure being more off than it is in the league, for sure. And hopefully Arsenal will lean on that. Ivan says 1-0 Ben White screamer. And my prediction, as always, will be a Ben White screamer involved in a 3-1 win. I'm going to go with Chris's scoreline as well, with goals from Kai Havertz. And, I've started him, so I guess I'm going to have to predict a goal from Emil Smith-Rowe as well. But thank you to my panel of guests. Do drop all of the love for them in the chat box in the comment section down below as well. Chris, thank you for your time. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on the Discord server. It's giving everybody really bad dad jokes and making, stupid comments like normal. Safe environment, so it's not going to appear on YouTube, is it?
Fair enough, mate. Kian, thank you for your time, mate. Pleasure.
Yeah, same thing. I'll be on the Discord as well. I don't comment, but I read everything.
There you go. So Kian's watching. Just know that Kian is indeed watching. And Bryce, fantastic debut, mate. Thank you for taking the plunge and inspiring, hopefully, more of our cowardly Discord members to take the plunge themselves as well. Thank you, and tell people they can find you.
Yeah, on the Discord, and then in the Discord, I can drop my Twitter handle or something like that.
You can drop it here if you want. Tell people.
1 sec, I don't even have it memorized. 1 sec, hold on to tell my phone. It's at Bryce Connor 18. Connor is Connor. So
there you go. So
all right, give me a
follow. I always know
when
a Connor is spelled a certain way because a Connor with one N has to tell people how it's spelled, whereas a Connor with two N's never does.
Two N's. Two N's.
Just making sure. 2 N's. Connor with 2 N's. Thank you, Bryce. Smashed it, mate. Well done.
You.
Thank you to everyone joining us in the chat box as per. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning to break down Mikel Arteta's press conference, any of the other news, of course, from today as well. Interesting things I learned about release clauses today, just to finish off the show. Paulo Dybala, remember him, has a £10.8 million release clause that is available this window. Serhou Guirassy has £15.2 million release clause as well. So if you want to bargain centre forward, there's a couple there. Arsenal, just saying, but maybe fans won't go for that. Anyway, let's see if they do tomorrow. Have a fantastic day, people. Drop a like, subscribe, all that fantastic YouTubey stuff, and we'll be back very soon. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy, and as always, up the Arsenal.